Thank you for having us here today, Craig.
My pleasure, Jason.
For those who might not know much about the history of the museum, could you tell us a little about the history of the collection?
Yeah, look, the collections at the University of Sydney have a really diverse and interesting background. The Chau Chak Wing Museum is an amalgamation of predominantly three main museums on the campus. The Nicholson Museum, which was archaeological artefacts and antiquities, the Macleay Museum of Natural History, Cultural History, Indigenous Material, Science and so on, and the art collection, the University of Sydney's art collection as well. But on top of that, we've got material which has come from a whole lot of different teaching collections that have been used on the campus for more than 160 years in some cases for engaging with students. The whole aim of this is to bring them all into one space so that we can continue to use them for teaching, but to also have them accessible for a much wider audience.
What were the main challenges for the museum in getting up and ready to open?
Well, look, like the rest of the world, 2020 has been a challenging year, and I would recommend that opening a museum or a gallery in a pandemic is perhaps not the best time to do it. But what's been amazing has been the way that the team have been able to respond. So the Chau Chak Wing Museum was initially planned to be opened in August. We delayed that and we ended up opening in November of the year. Like everyone else, it meant that we had to sort of rethink our plans. Again, like the rest of the globe, a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of online discussions as opposed to taking place in the flesh. The actual practical difficulties of how do you install an exhibition in a small display case and social distance at the same time. It was a challenge, but at the same time, I think that once we've opened, the visitor numbers that have been coming through have also shown that one of the things that people have been missing while in lockdown was that direct access to art, was that direct access to collections. And so for me, the real takeaway lesson is just actually how important it is that we as a species, humans, have access to rich history and rich artistic collections to sustain us as well. So it's kind of exciting that we have been able to open. It's the light at the end of the tunnel after a very difficult years in many ways.
Craig, the museum is open with 18 exhibitions. How many of those are permanent and long-term exhibitions, and how many temporary exhibitions do you hope to do per year?
Look, in terms of our opening iteration, we've got 18 exhibitions. We may not always have 18. Our ambition is to change some of those over relatively frequently, every 6 months or 9 months. Others will stay as you'll see them for a couple of years, 4 or 5 years. The exhibitions that we're open with cover a whole range of different subject matters and a whole lot of different parts of the university's collection. So within our largest temporary exhibition space is an exhibition called Jiaokuri, which examines Yolngu art and artefacts from Arnhem Land. We've also got a very significant exhibition called Coastline, which is of works from the university's art collection, which examines the relationship between humans and the coast. Other spaces, such as a lot of the antiquities that you see behind me, will remain relatively stable for the time being as well. Likewise, our natural history exhibition of natural selections. But again, even within that, there'll be particular aspects of exhibitions that may well change over. Some of our historic photographs, for example, both from Australia, but also an exhibition of historic photographs from Greece, we aim to change relatively frequently. So we're hoping that every time visitors come through for repeat visitations, they can see some of their old favourites, but also discover something new.
Craig, as the Manager of Education and Public Programs, what role does the museum hope to play in education, and who are you specifically targeting?
Well, look, I think every museum on the planet needs to be thought of as an education resource, but a university museum in particular. So we've got a very ambitious plan for educational outreach. Now, this is in a whole lot of different aspects. Obviously, for undergraduate and postgraduate teaching, We've actually built in some dedicated space to teach object-based learning sessions for students of a whole range of academic disciplines and subjects. Likewise with our school outreach program for K to 12, but we're planning in 2021 a whole series of educational activities for adult groups, for early childhood learning, and really trying to get visitors and organised educational groups to engage with collection items, to actually get them to think about the importance of these pieces. What a statue from ancient Egypt means to contemporary Australia, and how we can respond and interact with that as well. So, our education team are very much dedicated to this idea of sharing the collection and letting people share their own stories. For the general public, there's also a chance to participate as well. That we have a whole series of exciting talks and seminars, some of which will be hybrid, so you can watch at home. Others will be live events as well. And these, again, will hopefully cover a whole range of different topics, from visual arts to archaeology and history to historic photography and Indigenous culture. So I invite people to visit our website to get a sense of what's coming up, and feel free to contact us as well.
I wanted to congratulate you on your recent highly commended in the Imagine Awards. Could you tell us a little bit about how that podcast idea came about?
Thank you so much, Jason. We were so thrilled because it was really just a hobby more so than anything else. But the podcast called Object Matters was something that I devised during COVID, and during the period when the museum was shut to the public. Wanted that sense of how we could continue to engage with our audience. So it involved me interviewing some of my museum colleagues, and of course some of the university academics here at the University of Sydney, about an object that had a meaning for them. It could be scholarly, it could be something they've published or they've worked on as a researcher or a conservator, or just something that they love. Every time they go to the museum, it's one of their favourite objects. What I wanted in the podcast to do was to explore the story of how we connect with one object or one work of art, but not necessarily with another one as well. And what's been lovely has been the response of people who've been listening, because we all have our own favourite museum object, we all have our own favourite spaces as well. And what's lovely is to hear people within the sector say the same, that I've built up this remarkable relationship over the last 10 or 20 years with this one object, and the reason why I'm so passionate about it. So thank you, we're really, really honoured.
Is it something you're going to continue with, or?
Yes, so the intention is to continue running as long as people will listen to it. Since the award, since the awards were announced, I've had a whole lot of people offer to give one, and I've got a whole lot that I've recorded that will come out in early 2021.
The museum's been open for a short while now. What has been the demographic of the visitors so far, and how's it been received?
Look, it's been amazing. The number of visitors that have come through the door in our first few weeks since opening have been well beyond our expectations. And what's lovely, of course, is a lot of our old friends from the days of the Nicholson Museum, the McClay Museum, have come back, and they can see that, again, their favourite objects are still here, and that connection that they built up with those past spaces now lives on. But in many ways, what's most exciting is seeing new faces and new people. One of the big differences for us was we can now be open 7 days a week, so we're now getting weekend access of families and groups that in the past may not have had an opportunity to come in and see us. So we're open for everybody. This is your space. We might be in a university, but we're not just for students, we're not just for professors. We are for Sydney, we're for New South Wales. And it's been really, really heartwarming to hear the stories of people as they pass through, talk about how much they love the building, talk about how much they love the collection. Nice to hear people comment on how friendly our staff are. Again, we want this to be your space, so please come in and enjoy it.